One. This is your daily dose of Formula One news, and my name is Rich. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about Barcelona and changes to the circuit. First reported here months and months ago, but it's now been made official. Alpine and some upgrades that are expected, what Mercedes have been saying about Red Bull's RB19, and some thoughts from Martin Brundle on the future of Lewis Hamilton. But first of all, I did just want to have a really big thank you to you guys. Overnight, well, thanks to the success of the pre-season testing, watch-alongs and things like that, we got over the 1,000 follower mark on the channel, and also other requirements that you need to become a YouTube partner. And I just wanted to really thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for getting the channel to YouTube partner. It's absolutely awesome. It means lots of different things. Or it means that I can create members-only content, so people who decide to regularly support the channel will get exclusive content. You can also send super chats. So for like a monetary fee, your chats can be highlighted in the chat and things like that. And just ads as well. It helps support the channel and keep everything moving. So it's absolutely mega. Thank you very much. Look at that. Arctic there. Is that a super chat? Is that the first super chat? Hey, Arctic Jumbo with the first ever TSK F1 super chat. Thank you so very, very, very much. I appreciate that so much. Thank you very much, Arctic. That's super nice of you. And you can do that, and you can send it with a chat and have it highlighted. And I think it gets highlighted at the top of the chat if it's a certain amount and things like that. But there you go. It's about ad revenue and all sorts, and it just helps support the channel. So I just wanted to say thank you. And there's lots more content to come. It really fills me with confidence that this kind of content people want to see, and what I'm producing people want to see. So thank you from me to you. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you again for that super chat. But let's get into the news, shall we? But Barcelona. Now, this is the section that, well, it's not being changed, but we're changing configurations for the Formula One. Now, this was first mentioned on TSK F1 some months ago. Ian with the £5 super chat. GG, what is that? A GG Hippo or something? Thank you very much for the £5 super chat. That's super nice of you, dude. Thank you very, very much. Barcelona track is changing at the end section here. Now, normally they would turn off right where my big bald head is and go down the hill and then through that little chicane at the bottom and then join the outer track. Now it's going to the original sort of layout there where you're just following the outer track. So just here, instead of going down the chicane on the right hand side, they'll continue on along there and straight up there, you know. And this is how it used to be, actually. Who's old enough to remember that? I believe they use this configuration in MotoGP still anyway. I'm not sure. But who's old enough to remember them racing on this configuration? I know I am, sadly. Thank you again for the super chats. That's very nice of you. I wondered if they'd work, and they clearly do. Now, what I wanted to have a little bit of a talk on this, because I've said quite a few times, chicanes like the one at the end of Catalonia are so anti-Formula One, and I hate them on any circuit, right? So take the chicane that's under the bridge at Miami, absolutely despise it with every fibre of my being. It's horrible, and people will disagree with this, but I really don't like the chicane at the end of the circuit on Spa. I think it ruins the flow of a wonderful circuit. Also, sort of the Vale chicane at Silverstone, I absolutely hate it. And I just hate those kinds of things, but more so really chicane, less the bus stop, I think we call it, at Spa, but more so chicanes like this one and the one at Miami. I'm trying to think of others, but there are other examples, and I absolutely hate them in Formula One because they just don't work for me, because they're so clumsy and they're just horrible, aren't they? And I think we will much prefer this, especially with the modern cars, with the ground effect, the level. Monza, exactly perfect, Brett. Hate the Monza chicanes. I get it, big braking zone, but they don't work for passing. Excuse me, very sorry. They don't work for passing, do they? Because Monza, I think, is artificially one of the least overtaking rich Grand Prix of the year, if memory serves. It's counterintuitive, but it is. Everyone thinks there's tons of overtaking, but actually there isn't. And I just hate them myself, Brett. I just really don't like them. So this is an extremely positive move, a move I've been calling for years. And I think it was like last October or November we first reported this on TSKF1 that Catalonia actually petitioned the FIA for this to happen. So I think this is a really good positive change, and I'm super happy that that's happened, honestly, and I can't wait to see the racing round there, because with these cars they should be able to go round there and then the final corner really quick and then onto that long start-finish straight that we have at Barcelona. But there you go. Lots of people were telling me about this yesterday, and I misremembered. I thought it was confirmed months ago, but I've gone back and looked. We reported it when Catalonia petitioned for this change. So yeah, I thought it was confirmed months ago, but it was actually the track petitioning for it that I had seen. Now, a little bit of an article here about Martin Brundle having a few thoughts about Lewis Hamilton. Now, Lewis Hamilton retirement sort of suggestions have been going around a long time, haven't they? You know, a driver or a sportsman, really, any sportsman gets to a certain age and people like to talk and try and figure out when they might retire. Slow Sports Muse. Oh, loads of people said it at honestly, at one point half my chat was full of Rich, have you seen? I was like, yes. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. But lots of people like to talk about successful sportsmen retiring, don't they? And Martin Brundle has weighed in on this. Now, it has become clear to me that not everyone knows who Martin Brundle is. Ex-F1 driver and commentator, pundit on Sky Sports, all-round broadcasting and racing legend now. Probably more known for his broadcasting now, to be quite honest. And very good he is indeed. But it has become clear to me that not everyone knows who Brundle is, because not everyone watches the same stuff, right? But he's gone on to talk about why he doesn't see a reason Hamilton can't carry on for years to come, right? And he told Sky Sports News, I think Lewis can race for as long as he wants to. Drivers don't get smashed up these days, they don't get broken bones, and their heads don't get knocked around too much. The cars are so much safer. They're physically in incredible shape with their nutrition, hydration. They're looked after so well. So I think they can race at their peak, at their peak. And I think Lewis has got many more years as many more years as he wants in him. I think he'll handle it fine. What else is there to do in life if you can drive one of the best Formula One cars in the world? He's got a good point. Asked if he still sees a hunger within the Brit, Brundle added, absolutely. Both him and Alonso somehow have the hunger. This is one of the things that fascinates me about 2023. You've got the two of them left now, Alonso and Hamilton, against this army of youngsters coming in who want the glory and want the championships. We'll have to see who comes out on top. And I've said this lots and lots. Generally, when people are on about Hamilton, or actually in my case Alonso, that you only have to look at other sports as well to see that if an athlete chooses they're going to look after themselves, then they can play on and continue on for a very long time these days. Just want to say, please do make sure you're hitting that like on the stream, guys. It helps absolutely loads. You might just have to close the chat and hit that like button and then reopen the chat, but it helps absolutely loads. And Lewis Hamilton's 38 now. Just randomly in chat, how old do you think he can go to or will want to go to? Like, he's 38 now. I think you could probably quite realistically say another 3 or 4 seasons. Like, when you look at Lewis Hamilton, he's a very, very fit, well looked after guy, isn't he? Like, you just have to look at him. He looks after himself. He's obviously got the right nutrition and mental state, and everything is just right on with him, isn't it? And he seriously looks after himself. The same with Fernando Alonso, right? It's crazy. But then, like I say, other sportsmen, if it's up to the individual, right? They have to look after themselves, don't they? And a really good example is, for me, Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, he's as football players go, outfield football players, he's like old, isn't he? And you can say whatever you want about him, just to look at the guy, he really, really looks after himself and is dedicated to it. And I think that's another really good example of a sport where usually a player in that position, okay, he's gone to play in Saudi Arabia now. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, another example. These days, with sports science and nutrition and things like that, where they are, these sportsmen, these elite sportsmen, really can continue. And I think it's changing would the word be the paradigm, like, and how we think about sportsmen. Like a football player, for example, you get to 35 and, they're done, sort of, generally, you know what I mean, at the elite level. But I'm not sure that's as much the case. And as TCC says, it's hard to keep in peak shape once you hit 40. But I think that shows their dedication, and I'm not saying you're not, but it shows the dedication that these people have, doesn't it? And if they've got that drive. But Alonso has commented on that. Alonso has said it's really hard to keep that level, and he has to work so much harder now to be fit, Stuart says 45, 42, 41, 44, 42 to 45. I think they're all good shouts, I'm of the opinion that we're almost bordering on the fact that nature will catch up with reaction times, that the likes of Alonso and when they get there one day, Leclerc and Max and stuff like that, that the thing that would catch up with them is reactions. And for me, as a Schumacher fan, on his return, for me, that was the obvious thing. I think his fitness and everything was there. It's Michael Schumacher, and I think he knew what he needed to do physically. But I think anyone, even with an unbiased look at it, there were certain circumstances to me on Schumacher's return. It was his reflexes and things like that. And I think maybe Alonso and Lewis Hamilton might fend that off for longer, because they've not taken a break. Admittedly, Alonso has, but he's been back a good few seasons now, so he doesn't have that ring rust, and these two don't have that ring rust. Whereas I feel like that side of things, if like Lewis Hamilton took a year sabbatical and came back at 39, 40, I think he'd struggle. For the same reason Schumacher did. I don't know if people remember, but there was 3 or 4 instances, and people can say Schumacher cheat, blah, 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 whatever, but he pretty much drove up the back of people because it just seemed his reactions were off, And I feel like we're almost bordering on that, where the fitness levels and stuff are irrelevant. They know what they need to do there, but there's a natural slowing down of reactions and stuff, And maybe we see that. I don't know, but that's just a thought. But Martin Brundle pretty much saying these guys can continue as long as they want because of how they are. Good morning, Rico. How you doing? Either that, or he might win his 8th title and be done after that. Well, and be done before. Well, yeah, he could win his 8th title. And we're about to speak about the potential of that and the RB19 and the Mercedes and stuff like that. But thoughts. Cheers for your input there, guys. Now, here's some juicy yet vague-ish stuff. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Nick, for the £15 super chat. Nick says, content is top class, which I enjoy a lot. Everything is well earned here. Thank you so much, Nick, for that generosity. That's super nice of you. Thank you very, very, very much. It's very nice of you. Blown away by this. Thank you, guys, for the super chats. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you very, very much. So, the RB19. Now, some of this I'm a little loath to bring you because I don't like unnamed sources. But there has been some reports out of Germany in a publication called Auto, Motor und Sport, and I have seen this before, and generally I think they're all right. I could be wrong. But they have put Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes as their predicted order. And they said, adjusted for factors such as fuel, engine mode, and track temperature, the Red Bull, with the world champion in the cockpit, is estimated to be 2 to 4 tenths faster than Ferrari and 6 tenths faster than Mercedes. Now, that's from their own analysis. It seems that they think, again, that the Red Bull is 2 to 4 tenths faster than the Ferrari and 6 tenths faster than the Mercedes. Now, a part of it that I don't like to bring you here is what an unnamed Mercedes source has told Auto, Motor und Sport, that Red Bull are 10 millimeters lower than everyone else. If we drove that low, the underbody would break, and that's not an implication of cheating or that they're running too low. It's just that they can run lower than everyone else, and in the ground effect era, it's super important to run low, isn't it? So that's again, I don't like bringing that kind of stuff because it just says an unnamed Mercedes source. But they're able to run their car lower than everyone else. But that, as the article goes on to explain, isn't the only strength. Toto Wolff has said they brake later, accelerate much earlier, and gain incredible amount of time with better traction. If we approach the corners like this, we don't even get to the apex. And Lewis Hamilton was worried about the deficit, saying that was an issue last year and a bit this year too. Bouncing is mostly gone. Sometimes it's still there, but most of the time it's not there, which makes the things a whole lot better. But we do have some pace to pick up in a straight line. We have some things we need to work on. It's still not perfect, and we're not able to match the Red Bulls or the Ferraris currently. Who knows where we'll be next week? We'll just try and stay positive. So the implication or the suggestion there is that basically Red Bull are able to run lower than anyone else, 10 millimeters lower than anyone else. And I know that doesn't sound very much, but in the world of F1, that's huge. And that just should make everything work better with regards to ground effect, downforce everywhere. Just absolutely everything should work better being lower to the floor in this class of car. And like Mercedes have literally said, if they can't match Red Bull in how they're approaching corners, and we heard a lot over testing that they have this data. They because of the GPS data, they know how cars and teams are approaching different parts of the track and the speeds they're going and everything like that. So it's totally plausible that they've looked at, say, Max Verstappen's data and given it to Lewis Hamilton and said, this is how he's doing this, can we do this? And maybe they've tried and just like, no way, our car cannot do that, you know? But yeah, it's just an interesting one to bring you guys. that already it just seems that it did look that way. It did look that way. Spring Pete with a £20 super chat. Thank you, Spring. Saying, you, sir, are doing an incredible job. I have said it before, but thank you for all you do for our sport. Super proud of your achievements. It's all paying off. Well done. Thank you so very much, Spring Pete. That's super nice of you, dude. I'm very, very, very proud that TSK F1 is a partnered YouTube channel, and you guys are here. Thank you very, very much for the love and the support. I'm very appreciative, and I'm going to keep the content coming as much as I possibly can. So thank you very much, Spring. It's very nice of you. Thank you, dude, and thank you to everyone who's sent super chats so far this morning. Thank you very, very much. But I back to the testing. I said immediately, the Red. If you're a Red Bull fan, it's fantastic. I think if you're a fan of any other team, then it's a scary thing, because that Red Bull looked unbelievably sorted immediately. It just did. It looked brilliant, and these reports are only going to add weight to that, aren't they? So there you go with that one. Now then, Alpine. We've heard lots and lots about a plan B for Mercedes, right? And I've played it down because that's Formula One, and I feel like it's media doing media and creating conversation. And yesterday, indeed, I brought it to you guys saying, okay, Mercedes have said there's an evolution coming of their car, but it'll be their car and it won't be copying anyone else, and it'll clearly be their car. And I simply said, welcome to Formula One. There's no story here. Every team is upgrading. And sure enough, today, an article is released. Alpine technical director Matt Harman has revealed the team is set to bring an upgrade package to the opening round of the Formula One season in Bahrain. And look, I think we need to just, when we're watching outlets like Sky Sports and stuff, just pump the brakes a little bit, listen to what they're actually saying, understand where they're being vague, and understand where they're just making a story. And this doesn't surprise me in the slightest that Alpine are bringing an upgrade to the very first race. And he's said, when he was asked about the potential and how Alpine feel about the A523, the new car, he said, we've got a level of confidence. Of course we do, because we're clearly not running the car to its full potential. I don't like to labour on that too much, because I have no idea where the others are running, to be quite honest. We do our analysis, we all know we are looking at each other and where we are. There's a massive level of uncertainty in that, but from our point of view, things are responding as we expected. Our aerodynamics are working as we expected. We've tried some quite interesting different developments this week, and they've proved to be quite positive. So we're looking forward to the first race. And there are actually a few more quotes here. There'll be some visual differences to the first race, he said. We've got quite a nice upgrade going on, and hopefully that'll help with our quest at getting closer to that third position, if not being in that position. Moving forward with what we learned this week to not only improve the car for the first race itself, but also with development, we know we want to be aggressive as we were last year, if not more so. So that's super fighting talk. Love to hear that. Love to hear that coming out of Alpine. Love to hear that coming out of any team. He's hoping that they can keep the rapid updates going. And he said it may not be every race, because I think as the cars are evolving, they're becoming more integrated, and therefore packages that you need to bring need to be a little bit more widespread. And this links back into what I've said, about upgrades and about Formula One cars. When people are going side pods on the Mercedes, it's not just the side pods. It's the suspension, it's the front wing, it's the nose, it's the fences for the underfloor, it's the rear wing, it's the diffuser. You can't just go, let's bolt on some Red Bull side pods and everything works. That's not how aerodynamics work. But he continues, but fundamentally, there will be an attempt to try and develop something at every race, even if it's not bodywork or things that you see visually, but things that you maybe can't see that will give us lap time. So that's our intent. As we said before, we're quite proud of last year that we've got the same, and we've got the same resources, we've got the same finances, if not slightly better. So it's just down to us to get that to work, really. And this is the thing I really wanted to hit home with. We've heard Alpine are meant to have a very, very good car. You know, the talk of the paddock, despite what I would call, I think it's been fair as a general observer to say from the outside Alpine looked underwhelming in testing. They could absolutely have been sticking to their plan, their program and stuff like that. Just visually it was like it looked stiff, it looked to ride the bumps quite nastily and stuff, and it looked twitchy, and we saw a fair few big lockups, you know, and but even so, even late in the testing, other teams were saying, Alpine, that we can see their GPS data, we know where they're at, and where they're at is quick. And I think while I was impressed by Aston Martin, Alpine could still be a dark horse, like in that fight. And I think, look, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that you have potentially Alpine and Aston Martin knocking on the door of Mercedes in Bahrain, because we know Mercedes aren't where they want to be, but you've got a very bullish Alpine and Aston Martin going into Bahrain, and Alpine are being very aggressive by bringing upgrades, and we know they've been working hard, don't we, Spring? So we could see something very, very surprising in Bahrain, but surprising for people who might not be watching or taking note. But what do we think to the potential of that? Because all we're hearing is negativity out of the likes of Mercedes. Excuse me, just have a mouthful of tea. All we're hearing is negativity out of the likes of Mercedes, but positivity out of Aston Martin and Alpine. Even with my critique, all you heard is positivity from Alpine. And I'd like to see a shake-up. It'd be magnificent for me, I think, if Alpine and Aston Martin really are up there. Now, they haven't particularly detailed anything in this, unless I'm misremembering what I've just read. They haven't particularly detailed what the upgrade will be, but I'm going to pick apart. I'm going to pick apart something that's very important here. I'm going to just give me a moment, because it's a super important quote. Super important quote. Where is it? Just give me a moment, because it is important. Okay. This is probably the most important part of this. There's a massive level of uncertainty, but from our point of view, things are responding as we expected. Our aerodynamics are working as we expected. For a Formula One team, that matters, right? Now, you may have heard me over my coverage talking about correlation, right? It is extremely important for all the teams, but Alpine are the team we're talking about, for Alpine to have their CFD and then bring that over or whatever into the wind tunnel, for everything actually from their from their fabrication into the wind tunnel and things like this, and then they can get the data in the wind tunnel, have the data from the CFD, and they can say, yeah, they're making sense. What we saw in CFD is working in the wind tunnel, or wind tunnel is working in the CFD. That's making sense, right? What happens a hell of a lot is these teams take those developments and go to the track and then go, this isn't working. And a prime example of that right now is McLaren. They have said specifically that the correlation isn't there. And this is a thing. This has been a thing for McLaren for years, right? And if teams can prove a baseline, Mercedes last year, 0 pods, porpoising, all their issues, lack of correlation of data. It's so important. So it's about taking your CFD, your wind tunnel data to the track and going, okay, that's making sense. All of that is making sense. And the reason why that's so good is you know the methodologies and your development that you're using back at base will provide upgrades. If all of your prediction models are saying this is an upgrade, you've proved your baseline of all your procedures and you've got that correlation. You can take that to the track. So Alpine could go, right, they could have, I don't know, in design, say in CAD, in 3D, they could have had, let's just say, for argument's sake, new floor edges, a new front wing, and I don't know, a new engine cover, right? And they could have been in CAD, in design, just waiting for the word. And as word came back from Bahrain, like, we've tested this, yes, tested this, yes, and all the correlation is there, then at the Alpine factory, they've probably started before, but I'm just giving you an example. At the Alpine factory, they can go fabricate, do it, fly it as quickly as possible to Bahrain for the race. Now, I have a feeling in certain circumstances that's exactly how it works, but I know when it comes to carbon fibre, it's not that quick, right? But a team having early baseline and correlation is scary for the likes of Mercedes that are struggling. Because that means with Alpine saying they'll be aggressive, they have correlation of data. Mercedes not being where they want to and probably struggling with correlation, you could see a very sort of bullish Alpine taking valuable points for Mercedes away. You know, Nick saying Mercedes really have to watch their shoulders rather than look up, simply because Aston and Alpine are hunting them. They could very quickly become a mid-table team if they don't sort that car out. And people think that's impossible, Nick. Look, if you've been around Formula One long enough, McLaren and Williams were the Red Bulls of this world, were the Mercedes of this world. Look where they are. Spring says, without correlation, you simply cannot develop a car because you're effectively adding or removing stuff blindly. Exactly. And I hope I've explained that correlation stuff well. Is that easy to understand how I explained it, guys? I hope so. Good morning, Dan. How you doing? But there we go. That's the news. And it's really interesting as we're getting closer and closer. What day is it? What day is it today? It's Tuesday. Ooh, just a few days. Now, I wanted to remind you guys that on Friday I'll be live at 11 a.m. ready for free practice 1. I won't be able to cover free practice 2. I apologise, guys. There's unavoidable. I'm a parent, and there's nothing I can do. I've got to get my daughter from school, but I will be covering free practice 1, free practice 3, qualifying, and the race. I'll be live 30 minutes before each session, and we can have a chat, and we can see what we're going to think. I'm also working on some other stuff in the background, but I don't think it's going to be ready for the first race of the season, unfortunately. But I am working on things, and hopefully it will lead to an even more interactive TSK F1 on race weekends, and hopefully I can share that news with you soon. Spring says, thing is, CFD and track data do not have to match, they simply have to move in the same direction. Yeah, fair play, yeah. Instead of, that makes no sense, why is it doing that? I just wanted to end on the same message that I started with. Thank you again to everyone for watching and consuming the content, for liking the streams, for subscribing to the channel, because we are now a YouTube partner, which unlocks many, many different things, including the super chats, which some people have been super generous to have sent this morning. I very much appreciate it. Thank you. As well as ad revenue and things like that. It might be a little bit annoying for you guys, but it is the lifeblood of keeping a YouTube channel going. So expect more from the channel. Also, I'm going to figure it out, but member-only content. So if people become members of the TSK F1 Paddock Club, I think I'm going to call it, then people will be able to have some exclusive content, which I'm going to explore later on today. But thank you very much. I've been live longer than I normally am because I've had these thanks and stuff to give. Thank you, Ian, for the £5. That's very nice of you, dude. Thank you very much. I will be... Paddock Club is a cool name. It is, isn't it? It is, isn't it? I'll be live tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. with the latest F1 news. I'm going to be over on Pit Lanes on Twitch in probably the next 30 minutes or so if you want to come along and watch me race pretend race cars. The link is down in the description. But until the next time, guys, thank you very much, and I will see you very soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.